This is you. You're 14 years old and strangers are examining your teeth like you're a horse, checking if you're healthy, making sure you're acceptable. Your parents are standing behind you. They're not stopping this. They arranged this. The man looking at you is 50, maybe older. Hard to tell. He's rich though, very rich, and he just bought you, not officially. That would be slavery, which is frowned upon. Instead, he's paying your family a gift, and you're moving into his household as his concubine. Totally different. Legally distinct. Still feels like being sold. Welcome to being a concubine, where you're not quite a wife, not quite a servant, and definitely not free. You're expensive property with better housing than the slaves, but worse legal protection than the livestock. Let's be clear about what concubine means because it varies wildly depending on when and where you are. In ancient China, you're part of an official system. There are rules, hierarchies. Your children might have inheritance rights if you're lucky. The emperor had thousands of concubines. Thousands. Most never even met him. They just lived in the palace hoping to get noticed while slowly going insane from boredom. Ancient Rome? You're basically a live-in mistress with no legal rights. Your children are illegitimate. You can't inherit anything. If your patron dies, you're probably out on the street. Hope you saved money. Just kidding, you don't get money. Medieval Europe? You're someone's kept woman. You're hidden away because the church gets really upset about extramarital relationships. Your existence is a secret. You live in a separate house your patron pays for. You never go out. You're essentially under house arrest, except you're also expected to be charming and attractive while imprisoned. Ottoman Empire? You might be in a harem, with dozens or hundreds of other women, all competing for the attention of one man. It's like reality TV, except instead of getting eliminated, you just slowly fade into obscurity and die alone. But let's focus on Imperial China because they really perfected the whole concubine as official institution thing. They had systems, ranks, rules. It was organized misery. You're probably from a poor family, maybe minor nobility that's fallen on hard times. Your family needs money. You're the product they're selling. Or maybe you're from a wealthy family, but you're daughter number 5 and your parents already married off the first 3 to create alliances. You're extra, surplus. The concubine option is better than becoming a nun, your parents say. Marginally. Or maybe, and this is common, you were a servant in the household and caught the master's attention. He promoted you from maid to concubine. You think this is an upgrade. You'll learn. The selection process is dehumanizing. You're inspected. Your face, your body, your hair, your teeth. They're checking for defects, making sure you're worth the investment. You're interviewed. Can you read, write, play instruments, paint, sing? Your job isn't just sex. It's entertainment. You're expected to be accomplished, cultured, a companion, just one without any legal rights or ability to leave. If you're acceptable, the deal is made. Money changes hands. Contracts are signed. You're moving in. You're not moving into the main house. That's for the wife. The legal wife. The one with actual status and rights. You're moving into the side building, the concubine quarters. If there are multiple concubines, and there usually are, you're sharing space, living with your competition. This will be fun. By fun, I mean psychological warfare disguised as sisterhood. Let's talk about the hierarchy, because it's complicated and brutal. At the top, the wife, the legal spouse. She has rights, status, legal protection. Her children are legitimate heirs. She hates you, all of you. You're living reminders that her husband doesn't think she's enough. Below her, the first concubine. She's been here longest. She probably has children. She has seniority. Everyone defers to her. She's like middle management in a company, except the company is one man's sex life. Then the other concubines in descending order based on how long they've been here, whether they have children, and how much the master currently favors them. This ranking changes, constantly. It's a game where the rules shift and the prize is not being forgotten. At the bottom, you, the new girl. You have no status, no allies, no idea what you're doing. Everyone else has been playing this game for years. You just arrived. Your job has multiple components and they're all exhausting. Sexual availability. You're expected to sleep with the master when he wants, not when you want, when he wants. You don't get to say no. Saying no isn't an option. You're not a wife who might have some negotiating power. You're a concubine. Your consent is assumed in the contract your parents signed. Entertainment. You're expected to be interesting. Play music, discuss poetry, be witty but not too witty. Be educated but not more educated than him. Be beautiful but in a way that doesn't threaten the wife. It's an impossible balance and you're expected to maintain it perfectly. Household management. If you're high-ranking, you manage servants, organize events, run parts of the household. You have responsibility but no authority. If something goes wrong, it's your fault. If something goes right, the wife gets credit. Child rearing. If you have children and you're expected to have children, you're raising them, but they're not quite your children. They belong to the family. The wife might claim them as hers. Your son might inherit something if he's lucky. Your daughter will probably become a concubine somewhere else because that's how this works. The competition is vicious. You're not just competing for attention, you're competing for resources, security, survival. Every other concubine is a threat. If the master favors her, he's not favoring you. If she has a son, her position is secure. If you don't have children yet, you're vulnerable. The wife wants all of you gone. She can't get rid of you. Her husband bought you, but she can make your life miserable. And she does. She controls the household budget. She decides what you eat, what you wear, what rooms you get. If she doesn't like you, you're getting the smallest room, the oldest clothes, and the food nobody else wanted. You form alliances. You have to. You and 2 other concubines team up against the first concubine who's getting too powerful. You share information, cover for each other, plot together. Then one of your allies gets pregnant. Suddenly, she's more valuable. She doesn't need you anymore. The alliance dissolves. She joins the other side. You're alone again. It's like a really dysfunctional corporate office, except instead of competing for promotions, you're competing for not being forgotten and left to die in poverty. Let's talk about what happens if you have children, because this is where things get complicated. If you have a son, congratulations. Your status just increased dramatically. Sons are valuable. Your son might inherit something, might get an education, might have opportunities. This means you have value beyond just entertainment and sex. The wife is probably furious. Other concubines are jealous. You have a target on your back, but at least you have security. If you have a daughter, your status increased slightly. Daughters are less valuable than sons, but more valuable than nothing. She'll probably be married off or become a concubine somewhere. She's continuing the cycle. You feel weird about this, but what choice do you have? If you can't have children, you're in trouble. Your value is dropping. You're aging. You're becoming less interesting. The master is losing interest. You're watching younger concubines arrive and knowing they're replacing you. The master is 65 now. You've been his concubine for 30 years. You're 44. You were 14 when you arrived. You're almost unrecognizable from that girl. 3 decades of competition, stress, and political maneuvering have aged you. You had 3 children, 2 survived. Your son got a minor government position. Your master helped with that, one of the few times he actually used his influence for you. Your daughter was married to a merchant's son. Could be worse. The master barely notices you anymore. There are younger concubines now. You're old news, literally old. But you're stuck. You can't leave. You're a concubine. This is your life until you die. If you're lucky, if your son is successful and remembers you exist, he might support you in old age, might give you a small house, some money, let you live out your final years in relative peace. If you're unlucky, if your children forgot you or can't help or died, you're staying in the concubine quarters until you die. Getting older, getting ignored, watching new girls arrive and make the same mistakes you made, unable to warn them because you're competition even now. The master dies, you're 50, he was 86. The wife, now the widow, is cleaning house. She's getting rid of concubines. You're included. You have no legal claim to anything, no inheritance rights, nothing in writing. The verbal promises the master made, worth nothing. You're given a small amount of money, enough to live modestly for maybe a year if you're careful, then you're escorted out. You're 50 years old. You've spent 36 years in this household. You have no other skills, no other options, no family. They're either dead or don't want you back because you're ruined in their eyes. You're probably moving into a small room somewhere, living off that money until it runs out. Then you're working, maybe as a servant, maybe as a seamstress. Whatever you can find that someone will hire a 50-year-old former concubine to do. You had 3 decades of relative comfort and security. Now you have nothing, and you realize the entire time you were a concubine, you weren't building toward anything. You were just existing in a holding pattern until you became inconvenient. Your last thought is probably wondering what your life would have been like if your parents hadn't sold you to a stranger when you were 14. But you'll never know. And speaking of historical positions where women had no legal rights and their entire existence was defined by men who controlled their fate, check out my video on The Secret Life of Female Gladiators, because those women also didn't choose their circumstances and somehow managed to be even more badass about it than you'd expect. They were fighting literal death matches while you were fighting political battles, and honestly, both situations were a nightmare. Links right there.